Thursday, everybody, April 2nd. I hope you all have been surviving your first few days of remote learning. It has seemed fairly smooth on my end. You guys have been doing a really great job, so hopefully it has felt that way on your end as well. Definitely make sure you are reaching out to me or any of your teachers with whatever questions you have. We are super flexible right now. We know this is totally new for everyone involved. So you can see on your screen today I have pulled up Miss Cami Hackney's quote. It is, the more things that you read, the more things that you will know. The more that you'll learn, the more places you will go. And hopefully you guys are getting plenty of reading in as well. Before we get started on a follow-up to your essay, I also wanted to make sure we acknowledged a bunch of the birthdays we have missed since we have been apart. So we have had 6 of them just in our ACP classes alone. So Addie was March 14th, Paxton was March 15th, Cami was March 29th, Malia was March 31st, Will Queen is today, happy birthday Will, and Miss Julia Ackerman is tomorrow on April 3rd. So I hope you guys all had a great birthday, even though it is certainly weird to be in quarantine with it. So I am next going to pull up what hopefully you guys have up as well, which is today's lesson plan. Just going to go through it like I did on Tuesday, kind of point out a couple things, and then I'm going to give a little bit of kind of whole class feedback of what I saw on what you submitted with the first part of your essays. First thing I wanted to point out on the lesson plan that I did add from Tuesday, since a couple of you had emailed and asked, we are obviously continuing with your MemBean training. You have until Friday at 11:59. All right, so that is something that the district has kind of looked at on certain due dates. So instead, I think of 3 o'clock on Friday. If you needed additional time, you can have until 11:59 on Friday. You should still be training on 2 different days. We're going to continue with those typical guidelines of MemBean, though. Also, don't forget that if you do want to meet with me, with some type of video conference just to say hi or to talk about your essay more one-on-one, go ahead and click on that link and I'm happy to schedule that with you. So right now you guys are obviously right here watching this particular video. We are just continuing with where we started on Tuesday with your essay. So what you guys are going to do here in a moment, once this video is done, I'm going to have you guys get back into Google Classroom with the part 1 of your essay, and I want you to look at the feedback I have written on there from your first 2 to 3 paragraphs. Most of you just did 2, a couple of you did 3, which is completely fine. But you all have an edited PDF with handwritten comments on there, so you obviously want to start there. I would then make some of those revisions with the first couple paragraphs. I would not wait until you get the whole thing done and then go back and start making some revisions. Once you have made any necessary revisions, then I would move into the second part of your essay. Whether you have 2 or 3 paragraphs left, that is what you want to be continuing. And notice what's here in red on the lesson plan. This is still not final. So you guys are going to submit this. You're going to have until Friday at 11:59. So you obviously can submit it today, which is Thursday, but I will accept these up through Friday at 11:59 for your actual essay. I'm going to be then going through the second part of your essay and giving you more feedback, and next week we will work on finalizing it. So just keep in mind, this does not have to be perfect. This is not your final version, but the more you have and the better it is, then I am able to give you some of that feedback, okay? So I want to point out a couple things on some people's actual essays. So what you are going to see, so it looks like I am in third bell right now. So you can see as I just scroll through the different names, you all are obviously looking for that edited PDF. And I'm actually going to put Claire Reese on the spot here because she had a really great one and I wanted to point some things out. So you're all going to see a lot of different comments on here. There might be some grammatical things I have pointed out, either getting rid of a comma or maybe a place where you need a comma. A lot of feedback on those are things like I have here on Reese's, to use the full title, or some of you I have put on yours. Make sure you include the book title and the author in your introduction. That should be an important part you have in your first few sentences. You all, I shouldn't say all, many of you have feedback like I have here on Reese's, where it says to italicize the title of your book. So that's an important step grammatically. Very few of you, though, have the type of feedback that you see here on Reese's, which is just the idea of an effective and clear introduction. Some of you haven't followed the 5-paragraph essay format. Some of you, your thesis is really unclear. It's really hard to even tell what your thesis is. And some of you, it's really hard to even know what prompt you were writing unless I look up here. And that should be very clear within your introduction, particularly your thesis statement. So a lot of you are going to have feedback of things related to following the format, elaborating, or making that introduction more clear. As you continue, you can see on Reese's, I just have a couple other little grammatical things. Reminder, RO, I wrote that on a lot of papers. That just means you have a run-on, meaning you need to properly separate your sentences, not just with a comma. Make sure you have those separate. Another thing that I wanted to point out on Reese's that was more rare from most of your essays, Reese did a really good job of not just summarizing her book. So she is talking about literary elements, and one of her literary elements is the importance of setting. And she just didn't tell what the setting of her book was. She really paid attention to the prompt, which is how does that literary element move the plot along? And she makes that point clear in multiple parts. She talks about how this develops the plot. She elaborates more on how it develops the plot. So really make sure you aren't just summarizing your book in your body paragraphs. Really focus on the actual prompt itself. When we talk about prompts, you can see I've got your prompt sheet pulled up here. And for the most part, prompt 1, 2, and 3 were really the most popular. A couple of you are doing 4, a couple of you are doing 5, but for the most part, it seems like prompts 1, 2, and 3 are the most important. So general reminders for those of you who are doing prompt 1, remember that theme is not a one word or even short phrase. So some of you are saying things like the theme of your book is racism. Racism is not a theme. All right, remember your theme is a full sentence. What is the message of your book? So make sure you actually have an appropriate theme. For those of you who are doing prompt 2, which is probably the most popular of them all, make sure you aren't just telling me what different conflicts in your book are. What is the prompt asking you? How does the author use conflict to move the novel forward? What are these conflicts that add to the plot development? Really focus on how the conflicts you are writing about help move your plot forward. That's an extremely important part you want to make sure you are getting in those body paragraphs. That's really similar to prompt 3, what I referred to there in Reese's example. Whatever literary elements you are selecting, for those of you who are doing prompt 3, make sure again you talk about how those elements develop the plot. So if your element is flashback, how are those flashbacks used to help the plot? If your element is stereotype, how do the stereotypes actually develop the plot of the story? Don't just tell me what a stereotype is. Don't just tell me what the flashbacks in your book are. So those are really some more general pieces of feedback that I ended up writing on a lot of papers. Another thing I wanted to point out then before you guys head off on your own, there's a lot of similar feedback I have on this particular one as well. Making sure we're doing little things like indenting our paragraphs, double spacing our entire paper. I wrote this on a lot of your actual drafts. Make sure you introduce your book and your title in those first couple sentences. Again, those run-ons, I was seeing those a lot in what we are writing, so really pay attention to that as well. This was something that I wrote, I would say probably in at least 25 different drafts. Where's your thesis? What's your thesis? What is the point of your paper? It needs to really address the prompt. That is setting the stage for your entire essay. So really spend some time getting a solid thesis statement. The other thing I wanted to point out, I loved seeing some of you use direct quotes. And I would consider doing that for a lot of you, especially since we aren't doing this in a timed setting like we had originally planned in class. You do have more time to look back through your book. But make sure if you are using those direct quotes that they are not quote bombs. Remember, all quotes need introduced, all quotes need explained. So make sure that that is something you focus on for those of you who are challenging yourself with some of those direct quotes. Here, once we hop off of this video, when you guys get into Google Classroom, you are going to see the assignment for the coming of age essay rough draft. Okay, so you are going to have to upload your now completed rough draft into that assignment, and please make sure you actually submit it. There were like 20 of you who didn't actually submit that I had to email the other day. Remember, that is what is telling me you are actually done. All right, it doesn't mean this is final. We know we're going to still revise, but make sure you upload your now completed essay, all 5 paragraphs, submit it into the rough draft assignment in Google Classroom. And don't forget, you have until Friday at 11:59 p.m. I will be working on giving you that additional feedback. And then next week we will work on finalizing and submitting, and then kind of moving into the next steps to wrap up our quarter. But overall, guys, I am continuing to miss you all. I have realized so many things in this remote learning that I definitely miss seeing your faces. I miss all of the craziness, even though it could be chaotic on many days. I even miss you, Fifth Bell. Yes, very true. But otherwise, reach out to me with any questions. No question is too big, too little, too silly. Please make sure you ask. And otherwise, have a great day, guys.